Hello everyone, and welcome back to this video. I am going to go over the Spec20. So this is the instrument that we're going to be using in class. So make sure you read through the instructions on how to use this, but I'm going to go through it in a video so that way you can kind of visualize what it looks like from the reading, because if you've never used one of these things before, it's really, for me anyway, it's hard for me to kind of imagine what I'm doing when I'm reading instructions for an instrument that I have no idea what it even looks like. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the instrument is set to the proper filter. So whatever wavelength you want, so here's the wavelength here. So it'll read wavelength here, and then on the bottom down here, below the zero transmittance dial here, you want the filter set to either 340 to 599 or 600 to 950. Since we have 642, we want it set to 600 to 950. So if I move it that way, then I'm filtering 340 to 599. So when the machine is warmed up, you want to make sure that the machine is on transmittance. So you'll see here the dot, it's at transmittance. We have transmittance, absorbance, concentration, and factor. So we want it on transmittance to begin with. Okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your cuvettes, you have your cuvette or your 9 test tubes that are ready with your solutions. You're going to want to wipe these carefully. So we have these Kim wipes, and so you want to make sure that you are wiping them carefully. You could be wearing gloves too, that'll helpful, but even if you're wearing gloves, just to be on the safe side, you want to wipe them really well on the outside to get rid of any sort of oils that could affect the absorbance or transmittance of your solution. Okay. The other thing you want to also do is you always want your cuvette to be facing the same way each time. Okay. So every time you use a cuvette, you want it to face the same way. We're going to be using 9 or 10 different cuvettes. So frankly, it's probably not going to matter. But in a lot of cases, you're using the same cuvette over and over again. So you use the same cuvette for one standard. You dump it out. You rinse it out with DI water. You dry it out really well. And then you put the next solution in there. And then since you're using the same cuvette, you want to make sure it's facing the same direction. So in that case, you would put like maybe a dot or a line on one end. And so you would make sure that when you put it in the spectrometer, that there's a line on the spectrometer here, you make it line up there each and every time. But in this case, we're going to be using 9 to 10 different cuvettes, so it's really not going to matter. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure there's nothing in there because you're going to zero the machine. That's like calibrating the machine. Excuse me. So you make sure it's on transmittance, and then you make sure there's nothing in there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to zero the machine using the 0% button here. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to turn the button until it turns 0. Make sure you're turning in the right direction. And so you'll notice I'm going to make it go to 0. Okay, it looks like it's 0. It fluctuates between 0 and 0.1. Oops, I hit the dial. So that's negative. Oops. So I gotta put it back. Okay. So it's fluctuating a little bit. That's fine. So that would be considered 0. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take your cuvette, make sure you wipe it down. You're going to put DI water in the cuvette. And this is going to be your blink. So you add DI water. And you added about 3/4 full. That's a bit more than that. You take your Kim wipe. You wipe it down really well. Make sure it's clean, and then you're going to put it into the spectrometer. And now you'll see it reads 46.2, 46.0. Now what I want to do is I want to make it go to 100%. Now instead of using the 0%, I use that to zero it. Now I'm going to use 100% to make it go to 100. So I want 100% transmittance. So I'm going to turn this until I get 100%. Oops, went over a little too much. So when you get close, you just want to be very careful. Alright, so there it's at 100. It'll fluctuate a little bit, so that's fine. Let me fix it a little bit. Looks like it's going up. Okay. Okay, so it looks like it's fluctuating, so that's fine. Then what you're going to do is once you got to 0, you're then going to take your blink out, and then it should read 0, right? So it's fluctuating a little bit. If it reads 0, then you're good. So you've zeroed the machine. Okay. If it fluctuates, that's okay. So now, when you're ready to do your absorbance readings. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to change the mode to absorbance. So here's the mode. So you're going to push the button, and now I am at absorbance. So at this point, you're going to take your cuvettes. You're going to keep your blank. You've got your blank. And now you've got 8 or 9 other test tubes. And at this point, you're going to, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put in each of your standards. And you want to start with the most dilute one. So you're going to start with the most dilute one, put it in there. So I have my standard. I'm going to put it in there, close it up. I'm going to read the absorbance. Okay, this is my blank, so it's not going to have any absorbance. And then write down the absorbance for that standard. You're going to take it out. Then you're going to put your next standard in. Put it in there. Read the absorbance. Write it down. And you're going to do that for each of your standards. And then you're going to do it for each of your unknowns. So you're going to have your unknown in here full for, about 3/4 of the way, so 75% full. And then you need to do that for each unknown. And then when you're done, you're then going to change the wavelength. Remember, you have 3 wavelengths that you chose, right? And this is gone over in the other video. So you're going to have 3 wavelengths. So you're going to have to do this 3 different times. So we've done it at 643, whatever wavelength that is. I don't know. I don't think that's the right wavelength, but that's like this our first wavelength. The next time you would change the wavelength. So you're going to change the wavelength with this dial here. So I'm going to change it to whatever wavelength I want. So if I go down past, what is it, 599, now I'm at 368. I need to make sure I change the filter, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the mode to transmittance again. And then I have to re-zero the machine because I have a new wavelength. So each time you change the wavelength, you have to re-zero the machine like you did before. So you go to transmittance, you leave it empty, you zero, using the zero transmittance when it's empty, and then you put your blank in, and then you're going to make it go to 100%. You're going to turn the dial to make it go to 100%. And so you're going to, once you got it to 100%, you're going to take it out, make sure it reads 0 again, right? And then if it doesn't, then you got to re-zero it again with nothing in there. You re-zero it and then put your blank in there, see if it goes to 100, and then adjust it again if it's not at 100. And then you're going to take your blank out once you got to 100 and see if it goes to 0 and stays at 0. If it stays at 0, then you're good. You're done. If it's off, like notice this is 0.2, then I'm going to have to adjust it again. And then to 0, then put my water blank in there, my DI water blank, and then see if it goes to 100. Adjust it if you need to, and then take it out and see if it goes to 0. If it goes to 0, then you're good. If it goes to 0 without the blank and it goes to 100 with the blank, then you've zeroed the machine and you're ready to go on. And that's how you work this machine. Okay, and you're going to do that 3 times for 3 separate wavelengths. So set up your data table to collect that data. So you're going to have 3 wavelengths, 3 absorbances, right, for each wavelength. Well, you're going to have more than that. You're going to have like 9 or 10 absorbances. Your DI water, your 4 standards, and 4 or 5 different unknowns. So make your tables appropriately to take in that amount of data when you're ready to collect. Okay, I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, let me know.